Hey, Nation back with Joshua Liberman out of Albuquerque, and we're just comparing notes over the summer heat. He got the better deal than we did in Austin, Texas, but good to see you again nonetheless. And how you been otherwise? How you doing? I see your photos of you're walking your dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing fine. Things are good personally. The business is crazy as ever, but nothing to speak of extraordinary. When you kind of talk about the weather, I was telling you that the only thing exceptional about our summer was it wasn't exceptional in any way. It was normally hot, normally dry, normally cool at night. It was just a decent, ordinary summer.
Yeah.
A little rain, maybe a little rainier than most, but not much, not enough to get on the news, which makes it pretty exceptional, apparently, compared to most of the country or most of the world.
Well, let's talk about what Carl Pellicek and Amy Babinchak are doing. You're involved in the NSITSP.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's the National Society of IT Service Providers. So it's funny for me because NSI are the initials of Net Sciences Inc., and we are a technology service provider, but that has nothing to do with our NSI TSP. They started. It is an organization that's primarily focused on getting IT service providers involved in the process of the development of legislation, states and in the states and federally, or being involved, getting them to be involved in the process, so that we don't end up with a bunch of folks who think that the internet is a series of tubes, making laws that govern the business and practice in our field. So trying to help guide people into figuring out, do we need certifications on a federal level or a state level for service providers? And if they do, how should we best go about doing that in a vendor neutral and sensible manner, as well as guiding service providers to improve their practices and become more professional. Quick advisor, a quick rejoinder that I am not a spokesman for that group. I believe I've got that correctly. You might want to go online and look for yourself. But though I am a professional member of the group and do some liaison work with them for others, I am not an elected official. But if you're interested in becoming one of those elected officials, well, that election is about a month out. Reach out to the NSI TSP, and if you'd like, I can put the link in the chat, if that's okay with you, Aaron.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, let's do that, and I'll capture it and we'll get it up on the blog. Well, I'll tell you what, let's change the subject. I always talk events with you. So you said you had a pretty busy August. Give me the 411. What's going on?
Well, I did 3 things in August. The first was in Phoenix. It was a small show of the sort that I hadn't done before. It was at the Hyatt downtown, and it was known as the Physical and Cyber Convergence Forum. And that was something thrown by a Brit by the name of Phelim Rowe.
Yeah, good old Phelim.
I know you know, right? You may be how I know him. I'm not entirely sure. It was the 6th such event. I was involved with the virtual ones the last couple of years, but not one in person until that show. It was a small and focused event, and yet I was amazed at the overall enthusiasm of the people there. It was mostly corporate and large company types, with some MSP or service providers as well. Henry Tim from ASCII and the channel company communities like Exchange, et cetera, and I were both there. But I honestly didn't know anybody else who was a provider there. We did a tour of the Phoenix data center. They call it Phoenix NAP, or Network Access Point, as well, which is where the pre-day was held, and then the full day conference was at that Hyatt. It was interesting and different, and they found it to be quite successful. Exchange happened in Denver the week after that. I was up there in an unusual position, helping out one of the vendors that I work with by the name of Dark Cubed, as more or less an MSP testimonial or a heckler, depending on how you. I'm mostly testimonial, up on stage with Vince Quisler, who's the principal and founder of that organization. That was fun. And like every Exchange, diverse and heavily peopled. I think they got their largest Exchange event ever in person, in the hundreds. So they were quite happy. And
Well, and to their credit, that's a slightly different event. That's, as I recall, an invitation only hosted event. And so it will never be 20,000 people, right? That's not its business model. It's a lot more intimate, as I recall.
yeah, so you're only halfway right in that. It's not invitation only per se. You can have a general attendee badge where you go and see the general sessions. They feed you. You can go to the show floor.
Oh,
But
okay.
neat of it is becoming what they call a sponsored or hosted attendee. And
Yeah.
that they pay airfare and hotel, but in exchange for that, they tie down your time. So you have what they call boardrooms, which happen multiple times a day, typically 4 or 5 times a day for about 40 minutes,
Of course.
half of which is a presentation from a specific vendor and half of which is the rebuttal to that, which basically the MSPs in the room, 10, 15, 20, 25 of them talking amongst each other about the presentation they just saw. But what's unique is that structure and the fact that as an attendee, you don't choose whom you're in front of, they choose you, more or less. But you get assigned to boardrooms and you sit through them. I'm pretty sure the vendors have preemptive strikes. They can probably avoid having certain people in the room, but for the most part, it's a match that's made by the channel company. It was shocking to me the first time I went years ago because I didn't know that in advance. But I've got to say that I probably haven't gotten more in-depth information from new vendors at any show since than I get there. For me, the challenge is maybe I only want to meet half those vendors. Maybe I only want to engage with 1 or 2 of them. And there's always vendors you want to see, but you're not set up. They're not on your speed dating schedule, so you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
It's very effective.
Yeah.
Vendors love it. I can tell you that much. Almost all of them tell us, that they've had a really great experience with it.
Yeah.
ChannelCon real quick, just that
Yeah.
happened the week before in Chicago. We can come back to that if you want, but that was the big annual ChannelCon, excuse me, event in Chicago at the beginning of the month, August.
Yeah, I heard good things. I heard 2 things about ChannelCon. I unfortunately didn't make it, but I heard 3 things. First of all, some of the people I interact with liked what's that, Project Agora, a training initiative that Todd announced in the keynote. So there was that. There was appreciation for almost like increasing the workforce of IT workers, and that'll be part of CompTIA's mission. Number 2, on the one hand, I had 1 or 2 people tell me that, well, there weren't many people there. But on the other hand, I talked to a longtime attendee, and she said, no, that's not true. The attendance was good. She said what tended to happen was people hadn't seen each other in person so long that they kind of scattered off and went to dinners or did this or did that. So optically, if it was your first show, and the person I talked to who didn't think there were many attendees, it was their first time, so they had no context. But my lady friend told me optically she could see how he would have felt that, right? That it wasn't displaying itself like, this big stadium full of people. But she said, no, the people were there. They wanted to scamper off and chat with the people they knew because it had been 2.5 years since they've seen each other. So she liked.
I could not substantiate it being lightly attended. It certainly seemed at least normal to me. To several of those. Now, I will also say that you're probably right. Your intuitive instincts are probably pretty good there. They definitely did. I saw a lot of people run off and do other things and meetups and schedule events. It was a lot more small groupy than some of them, groups of small people. Small groups of people. There we go. I knew it was in there. So there was a lot of that going on, a lot of,
of course,
self-driven. But yeah, it was actually a busy and effective event. And once again, with good feedback from people involved.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, I saw a higher percentage of people, vendors that were new to me than any show I've been to in quite a while.
All right. Well, hey, I got to bounce. It's Podcast Wednesday. So, folks, I'm going to be able to attend the Enable Empower conference and then the Acronis CyberFit conference. And Josh and I were talking off camera. So hopefully we'll see you at Acronis in particular. Nice time of year to be down in Miami. And otherwise, all right. Take care, my friend. Thanks for being a rotating analyst.
Thanks, buddy. I got to
All
rotate.
right. All right. Bye.